already in here, so we'll go ahead and get started. Today, once more, we're going over how to convert more visitors to your website, constructing a high converting marketing funnel, presented by us here at Unstack with our friends at Avocado. Speaking of our friends at Avocado, my name is Chris Cardone. I lead our customer success team here at Unstack, and joining me is Nick Cook from Avocado. Nick, do you want to chat a bit about what you do at Avocado?
Sure, Chris. Happy to be here. I'm on the customer success team as well. And Avocado, if you don't know, is a business messaging platform that allows businesses to communicate with their customers via SMS, live chat, and WhatsApp.
Awesome. Today, we have quite a few things to go over. First, I'll steer the ship for a few minutes and talk about building content to actually attract traffic to your site. So we got to get those visitors there first. We'll talk about optimizing that content for traffic. So we'll talk about how to optimize around SEO, how to rank higher on Google. And then Nick will take over to go over where to place your website widget, your widget being your live chat, strategies for engaging those visitors that you get to your website. And then we'll finish up with leveraging that content as a follow-up. So we're going to talk about the entire span of your marketing funnel. We'll first jump into it with building content for organic traffic. And this will do a lot with SEO. So first, when we're talking about actually building for organic traffic, we need to think all around SEO. So focusing on SEO begins with a keyword. So searches, we're not necessarily building around the entire question. We're thinking of what keywords can you build as your domain. So domain authority is when you actually take precedent or thought leadership in a certain area. For us here at Unstack, that's content marketing because we're very focused on inbound marketing. And a lot of that goes through content channels. So we publish a lot about how to optimize your content, how to create more content, and where to even get started with content. That's how we build domain authority there. For yourself, you're going to want to build domain authority around your offerings, services, or product. So your specialty areas, so that you're finding your customers who are searching for pain points within that certain sector. As you build out this organic traffic, you first want to decipher what keywords you're looking for and what questions you want to answer. So a really great set of tools to use here is Answer the Public, where you can actually just type in what your business does or type in certain content that you're looking to produce, and they'll give you a whole list, a whole array of questions that people have actually searched at top queries around those keywords. So it'll let you know what your customers are thinking of, what your customers are curious about. So you actually have a set of blogs that you can write. It's almost providing you a content cluster. Ahrefs to understand where traffic is coming from, what you can optimize, what keywords you're already ranking for, and what keywords you have opportunities for. And then Google Keyword Planner can actually be a really great spy tool. So what I mean by this is Google Keyword Planner can tell you what keywords any domain is ranking for. This means if you have a specific competition in your industry, you can enter in their domain and actually see what keywords they're specializing around. So you can attempt to utilize some of those or follow their strategy, but down a different pathway. With Unstack, you'll be able to host, manage, and optimize this content. Unstack is heavily focused on SEO, so we'll get you a lot of the way there. All you have to do is bring us the content. And although these tools won't give you the content, it'll allow you to build an actionable list of content you need to start creating to rank. Starting on actual content means starting on a base. Once more, we're looking at these tools more as just a launch pad for where to go. We still have to come with content, collect the data, and actually build valuable content. And we'll go over that in just a second. When we talk about this content, we're talking really specifically about thought leadership in certain areas. And there are two ways to go about this, two ways to really get your domain out there, not only in the eyes of Google, but also in just the eyes of your customers. So first, we have SEO level thought leadership, and we have public facing thought leadership. And you've probably seen or heard of a lot of these in your market. First, with SEO level thought leadership, this is where we're talking about telling Google that you know what you're talking about. This is the act of publishing content that is original and valuable. Original is very important. You want to come with your own content, content you generated, content you researched, not just content you copied from a different site, because their content is original, most likely published before yours, and rank above yours. Also, longer form content for specific topics is usually better off too, because Google can analyze and see that that will deliver the entire story to the viewer, rather than leading them kind of down this rabbit hole. Google will recognize this as thought leadership if you're doing this around specific content in a certain topic. You don't want to spray and pray when it comes to content. Specifying and putting your eggs in 1 to 3 baskets is most preferable, not necessarily spreading yourself too thin, because then you won't rank for any one specific topic. Building authority around that topic in the eyes of Google and other search engines will also build reputation for your domain authority. So when you expand to other content clusters, it makes it easier for you to already have this starting point of domain authority. Next up is public-facing thought leadership. We can kind of think of this almost as influencer marketing, but this time you're the influencer. So this is the act of sharing that content and promoting yourself as an authority figure in that domain on public channels like LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, anything that businesses really transacted on in your specific market. Although this doesn't necessarily help with SEO for the most part, you'll be doing this to draw more visitors to your website and to deliver the content that's valuable for those visitors at that specific time. You can think of really great thought leader examples like Dave Gerhardt and Gary Vee. There are people in their market who have positioned themselves as the highest authority in that specific area, and you think that their content's reliable, I'm sure it is, because they have such a high authority around it. Every single thing they say, they build a whole audience, so it's really reliable and it drives visitors there organically. Also, SEO doesn't build overnight. It can take a long time for domain authority. This is an actual unstacked customer, and we're going to see 3 lines here that are all equally important. You'll notice in the red is the total number of articles. It's a very clear, nice incline with a pretty natural slope. They're constantly producing articles, they never slow down. Now, the line that's most interesting here is you'll notice the uniques to their website. Unique is how many visitors they're getting organically. So this kind of can infer what their SEO ranking is. You'll notice that for a long time, they had kind of this lull marking. There wasn't too much. They were producing a high volume of articles, but they weren't seeing that return on their investment just yet. And then after producing just X a number, they spiked. So SEO doesn't necessarily build in a day, but domain reputation is always slowly accruing. So we don't want to give up. We always want to be consistently pushing content. So hopefully one day that accruement will just bump a spike. But it won't always be a spike. It'll just be subtle lifts over time sometimes, or as we can see in this specific chart, there's this exponential rise at one point. Now let's talk about actually optimizing for traffic. And load speed is a major piece of this, so is optimization around compliance. But a really great thing to always focus on is the bottom line, right? This is the easiest way to make a business case. This company came to it, has a really great study showing that for every 100 milliseconds of latency, that means just slower buffering speed. We've all experienced it with slow Wi-Fi or now being remote working from home. Just 100 milliseconds of latency can cause up to a 7% drop in conversions. This is huge, especially when it comes to the end of the day of how many leads you're generating and all of that. That 100 milliseconds for every 100 milliseconds of latency causes a 7% conversion drop on average. So let's talk about how we can prevent that drop, how we can prevent that latency, and how we can consistently go after the goal of being a fast-performing website that Google loves, because Google will also consider a few things. These 3 are just high-level things Google will consider, is your load speed, your compliance with things like ADA, so that could be visual screen readers, font size not being too small for those who are visually impaired or those who have high eyesight strain, and color contrast so that the text is clearly visible. Another thing is having clear H1, H2, and paragraph content. A huge thing here that we always want to take away is sites don't tell you when they're not doing good. You have to go in and actually figure it out and analyze how your site's doing. Speaking of that, if you're looking for a site audit, we actually do offer them here at Unstack. The goal of site optimization is to alert search engines that your content and your website is high quality and deserves to rank higher, meaning you're answering customer questions, meaning that you're actually leading an authority. You're not just a random website pushing out content. The ways that we can always make Google happy is by following these steps for compliance. So once more, that's load speed optimization. So thinking of compressing images, thinking of doing steps that gets your page to load quicker. Next is, once more, compliance. So we want to make sure that our colors are contrasty. So you want to make sure you're not putting black text on an already brown background. Nobody's really going to be able to see that, and Google won't love it. We want to make sure that our font sizes are humanly readable without having to strain their eyes. And we want to make sure that all of our images have what's called alt text. Alt text is basically the way to tell a Google search engine that what this image is of. So it's a short descriptor of what the image is of, and it can actually rank you for SEO. And then lastly, you want one H1 tag for each page, H2 tags and H3 tags that are supplemental, going over different sections on that page and different pieces of content. And then of course, you want a good amount of body content or paragraph content that is actually the value of that page, or kind of the meat of the page, as some would call it. Now I'll switch it over to Nick, where he'll talk about once you have those visitors on your website, once that content is performing well and bringing them in, how to leverage them by giving them this on-site engagement.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, you guys done all this work now to get more traffic to your website. So the question is, now what? So we believe that a website widget is a great opportunity to have a two-way conversation with your leads and prospects. And let me back up and just say like what a website widget is. And typically it's like a little logo or a bubble found in the bottom right of a web page, but it allows you to submit your information and your question to the business to either have a live chat conversation or SMS, or it could just be a web form and it could have you get contacted at a later date. So what we feel like is website widgets are often the first conversation that a customer or a lead is having with you. So it's really important to get this right. And we're going to go through a few ways to make that happen. So first, what I want to talk about is customer experience. You want to be mindful of how this is represented on all your web pages and landing pages. Do you want to have the same website widget on each, which is an option, or you could tailor the widget on specific pages. For example, if someone's visiting your pricing page and you want them to, you want to like have custom call out message and messaging around that. Same is true for support page and features, etc. So the choice is yours in regards to what makes sense for your business, but you could kind of have like a generic widget or a specialized widget based on what makes sense. I kind of want to go over this widget here in the slide. You could also customize all the fields, which again, if you need the email or a custom dropdown, in this case is order status, that could also be different locations or other things that make sense. And additionally, you always want to have a little blurb to allow them to mention more about their question. And now what we're really excited about is the option of giving the lead or prospect different channels to communicate with you. In this case, you'll see there's a live chat option and a text me option, which we'll kind of go into more the pros and cons and what makes sense there. A big thing when you consider that is, what does your internal team look like and what kind of capacity you guys have? So on the lead and contact side, the expectations in live chat versus SMS are far different. And with like a live chat conversation, they're going to expect an immediate response. You can see here in the poll, have you had a bad experience with live chat? I'll share. Oftentimes, I think live chat is a very, very valuable tool, but sometimes when I'm trying to have a live chat conversation with a business, someone's not on the other side, which doesn't create a good experience. Or I'll be in a queue, navigate to my email. I start typing up email about something else, and then I go back and I realize that I missed the alert, and I'm like, I missed the whole conversation. Now it's closed. I got to start the process over. So when you're thinking about staffing and what teams you have internally, if you only have a really small team, maybe one channel makes sense over the other. But just keep in mind that with live chat, they expect an immediate response, and with SMS, you have a little bit more time. I will say also, with SMS and a text conversation, you could have one agent can handle multiple conversations at one time. With live chat, it's a little bit quicker, so you have smaller bandwidth there. Additionally, keep in mind the sales cycle. We work with a lot of like legal firms, and they don't necessarily want to have a live chat conversation if somebody is, interested in representation. What they want is to capture their phone number and have an ongoing conversation over time, and that could, be multiple months. So in their case, a text option makes the most sense. So just keep in mind how long that cycle is, and if you could give both options, that's great. But just figure out how long the sales cycle happens for you guys and what makes the most sense. Additionally, you want to keep in mind your website design and branding. So some some customers opt to not have the widget like live on every page and not even have it display until an action is taken by a person on their website. So going back to that pricing page example, you could have a chat with sales now option, and when the lead clicks on that, they could have a new window and have that chat conversation. But the widget wouldn't be live on every page, so it can create a cleaner experience possibly and less distractions if that's something that you're interested in. All right, moving on, I'm going to give you guys some statistics here. Maybe. There it goes. All righty. So if you're here and you're considering, a website widget live chat for the first time, or if you're already doing it, you're in the right place, because 89% of consumers would like to message with businesses. And this was a study done by Twilio a few years back. And at that time, only 50% of businesses are equipped and had the infrastructure to support it. And I'm hopeful that that number has climbed over the last few years, but consumers want to be reached on these channels. And additionally, 71% of consumers recommend a brand to a friend after a good communication experience. So it's just really, really important to make sure that when they reach you, that you communicate effectively and quickly, and it's going to create that lasting loyalty over time. All right, let's see here. Oops, all righty. So a few strategies and best practices that we found working with over 1,000 customers is human first messaging. Now, not knocking on AI or any of that stuff, because automation is important, but we believe that that human connection builds trust and confidence from the get-go. So you can see in this case, this is the SMS conversation that's gone back in this example, and this person is dealing with a real human internally. We did an internal study, and 90% of customers prefer a real person to answer their questions. So you can't. I don't know if you guys had this situation, and again, not to knock on AI, because I'll get to how important that could be and how much time that could save you. But if you're trying to coordinate and have a conversation with the business, and you're answering these questions from this decision tree, and they send you an article, and your question's still not answered, and so that can create a really frustrating experience from a lead or a prospect. So just continue to think about how you could leverage automation and human first messaging, and I'll get to automation here now. So if you're working with leads and you have similar qualifying questions, like maybe you're asking them their business size or industry or other relevant information that pertains to you, that could all be built out and automated. So before an agent takes over and has a conversation, they could already be, get all the details that they need regarding that conversation. Or you could also engage with them in other ways through automation by having them, write in or text certain keywords that trigger different automation. But ultimately, we want a human to come in and take over and address their questions and give them that really good customer experience that people have come to expect over time. All right. So as I mentioned, we believe in giving customers the option of live chat or SMS. So you can see here, this is an example of a live chat widget on a website, and this person is going back and forth, but they now have to run and they want a text from this same business. So you can quickly now text them with something like our platform. And the reason is now you can give them options. If they want a quick answer to a question, or they're possibly, what we see a lot is a lead is interested in buying one of our subscription plans, and they have one quick question on the pricing or a feature that maybe is unclear, or maybe we addressed it previously, but they wanted to confirm. And so they'll send a quick widget submission asking for clarification. And when that's quickly resolved, they go on to buy a plan and become great customers. But that step is pivotal in creating a frictionless buying process. So that's like one example that we see often internally at Avocado. But you see here the live chat and the SMS. With SMS, if somebody is maybe not in front of their computer or they are about to head out the door, that's where an SMS conversation may make the most sense, because it gives them a flexibility to get to it when they can, and they don't have to wait in front of their computer or what have you. Great. Now, the last thing I kind of want to cover here is, hey, how does this widget play well with an internal CRM? If you have an internal system that you use, is this information captured? You can see in this example, we have a Salesforce integration where agents are able to respond to a SMS or a live chat straight from Salesforce. So if you use Salesforce or HubSpot or some others, you may want to consider, hey, does this information pass through nicely? And even are my agents able to have that conversation back and forth straight from our CRM, which allows them to live in that space and not have more tabs, et cetera. So that's kind of what I wanted to cover today. I'm going to kick it back to Chris for a few more updates and slides here.
Definitely. I mean, when you think about it, it all just makes sense of everybody wants that human interaction. I love those studies of when customer support phone numbers used IVR, which if you don't know what IVR is, something we've all interacted with. You call Bank of America, they ask press 1 for support, press 2 for sales, et cetera, et cetera. And the biggest thing people just press is 0. We all just want a human, but it's so important to almost give these human feeling automations of what are you looking for? Because we kind of live in this world and we face it everywhere at every single company of, we all want to automate everything. If we could automate everything, we probably would. But automating where necessary and where beneficial to the customer. So asking those really great contextual questions of what do you need from us so we can route you to the right person.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Awesome. So we've talked about moving this offline. Now, although we're all about supporting our customers, we also still need to get customers. And the way we get customers is making sales. So when you want to get a sale for our customers, especially something we do here at Unstack, is we're not necessarily selling you on the tool because hopefully you already understand the value, but we want to keep you engaged. So an amazing way that we personally do this that I want to push all of you to consider is selling with content. Leveraging content as a follow-up, right? We've all gotten those amazing emails from really big companies where they just deliver that piece of content that now you can't get the brand out of your head. We do it here at Unstack with our customer success stories, with basically a lot of the content that we push out is really great for our customers because a huge thing we're always focusing on is when we're creating that content, building value for our customers. So right, no matter what the value is there, now we're just using a follow-up as the delivery media. So content's an amazing sales tool, thinking about the customer's needs. What pain points are we addressing? What are they thinking during their sales process? If you have customers who, for us, we're doing inbound marketing for marketing websites, a lot of our customers are thinking about, well, how can I get better SEO? So we're going to address that question for you, and we're going to work it into how our platform will build up your SEO. So using this as a post-visitor to lead conversion and using this to expedite that sales process by delivering those pieces of content, keeping that visitor engaged with your brand, but not necessarily keeping every single engagement you have with that lead as pure sales, right? That's kind of an icky experience of, especially if your sales cycle is multiple months, you don't want every single email from the sales reps to be, hey, schedule a meeting with me, watch that demo again, do this, do this, do this. It's now you're delivering this, hey, I know SEO was a pain point that you were having. Here's a blog that our team put together with some original data about how you can improve your own SEO. Awesome, and we have quite a few people who have already actually leveraged content for sales, which is awesome to hear. And with all of this, we've gone over a lot of topics, and obviously now we want to step back and listen to you guys of what topics you want us to cover even in more in depth. So we already have a few in here. Feel free to drop any questions you have or any questions that have come up right into that Zoom Q&A widget. Awesome. So a really great question is, does Avocado integrate into a WordPress as a plugin? That's a great question that I'll hand off to you, Nick.
Yes, we have a lot of customers who use WordPress websites, and Avocado, it's a simple code snippet that will be pasted into the header of a WordPress site. So we actually give you all that code and a quick way to copy it, and it can live on all your web pages that way. So yeah, awesome. Yes, short answer is yes.
Awesome. So especially with all of these toolings, there's really great tools that can exist on every single site. And constantly optimizing exactly where this widget is, thinking about what your customer experience is, and also thinking about what content you can leverage this through is an amazing medium. So a lot of questions we'll commonly get is, when you're leveraging social media, how do you create content for social media? And a really great thing to always consider there is, what are you addressing on each platform? right? Each platform kind of has its own different machine. You see LinkedIn is mostly for sales tips, for marketing tips. Also, the overarching spectrum of LinkedIn is realistically tips. Whereas Twitter is almost this large variety. There are all these niches utilizing hashtags. So thinking about the medium of distribution is also really big for content. So often one piece of content isn't necessarily fitting for all mediums, especially things like Crunchbase or Reddit or anything like that. So creating content specific for those, if that's where your customers are, is also a great strategy you can leverage. So we have a great one of for public-facing thought leadership. A lot of the examples were people, not companies. Do you find that people respond better towards people being thought leaders on social media? Yes, absolutely. We actually do this here at Unstack. We're a good startup. So a lot of our team here will post thought leadership publications on LinkedIn and Twitter and all of that, because realistically, and we talked about this even with Avocado just being a chat widget, of everybody is people first. As much as these businesses like Unstack, we try to make ourselves lovable, and there are so many brands that have come before us and gone this very friendly human approach, we still know it's just the name of a company. When you see a person and you actually see a face and you can associate them with some piece of thought leadership, you're much more receptive to what they're putting out. And you can almost associate them with their thought leadership and thus associating the brand with them and thinking higher of the brand. So although you can do an amazing job, and so many companies have with their company social media, it's really important to also push your employees and push the actual people working within that company to share what they're doing there. It doesn't necessarily even have to be this whole long LinkedIn post, but it can just be what you're working on, because we're all working towards a specific goal for the company. Here at Unstack in the marketing team, we share all of our customer success stories because that's what we build. Our sales teams push all of the pieces of content around SEO and everything that our engineering team is constantly pushing. So there are really great mediums for all of this. But to answer the question in short, I definitely would suggest doing a people first type of outreach on social media. That's a lot better responsive. And we can see this even in the way that Facebook navigated so quickly. Facebook used to allow business pages and the posts from business pages to actually go into the main feed. And now if you scroll through Facebook today, due to their algorithmic change, you'll almost never see a business post organically in your feed unless it's promoted. Awesome. Nick, how do you guys do social thought leadership at Avocado?
Oh, interesting. That's a great question. I'm not sure I'm the right person to talk about that, to be honest. We definitely have increased our presence on social campaigns. We recently hired a content marketer who's been super helpful in getting our message across a variety of platforms. But I have to defer to her on strategies and that. It's not my wheelhouse.
Definitely. And there are so many different ways to leverage all of this. It's also just all about, for companies, a really big movement is now conversational social media. We see this conversational movement, especially if you're joining me here in Boston or Massachusetts altogether. Conversational is this huge movement that we approach in marketing, and we see it everywhere. But letting brands almost do like an AMA on social media is also a really great piece of, a lot of people will just scroll past tweets from brands, especially if they're just promoting a blog post, because especially if you're in marketing, it's just promotion at the end of the day. So making sure to really balance yourself of having AMAs, hosting actual events on specific social media. That's an amazing way to leverage it and actually boost engagement with brands on social media, is to have that brand actually host something valuable in that social media, not just to share value, but also create value by interacting with them through the specific medium. You'll see this with some brands. I think HubSpot did it recently, of actually hosting an AMA specifically on Twitter. And the only place they were doing it was Twitter. Awesome. So we'll wrap a bit early. Thank you to everybody who's joined us. If you guys have any questions about your site optimization, your site speed, or anything like that, feel free to get in touch with me. My email is right here on the screen. And Nick, if you want to let them know what they can touch base with you on.
Yeah, definitely. You guys could email me at nick.cook@avocado.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with anyone or answer any questions.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.